Hello, you're watching Uzreport World News and I'm Bahram Gafar. And here are our top stories for today. Over 700 projects with total cost of $10 billion are planned to be implemented in Tashkent by 2022. President of Uzbekistan, Shavkat Mirziyoyev, awarded a group of Uzbek women with honorary titles and medals. The Development Strategy Center of Uzbekistan hosted a delegation from Turkey. President of Uzbekistan, Shavkat Mirziyoyev, attended a festive event dedicated to the International Women's Day. Having underlined the rights of women and gender equality, he awarded a group of Uzbek women with honorary titles and medals.
According to President Mirziyoyev, 32% of the 150 deputies elected to the legislative chamber of the Oily Majlis are women. In the Senate, this figure exceeds 25%. Currently, more than 1,380 women hold senior positions in state and public organizations, and this number is gradually increasing. A year ago, we were here, in this very hall. President Mirziyoyev outlined steps to ensure gender equality. This year, we have witnessed several important reforms in this direction, and laws have been adopted to ensure women's rights. We have also seen positive reforms in the area of women's participation in the work of the Oily Majlis. Almost twice as many women participated in the elections. This means that the voice of women has a weight in public administration. In his speech, President Mirziyoyev praised the achievements of 32-year-old Aziza Shanazarova, who became a tenured professor at the prestigious Columbia University in the United States.
I
am the daughter of an ordinary Uzbek family who grew up in an ordinary Uzbek mahalla and graduated from an ordinary high school. I had the same opportunities as everyone else, but I must say that due to my interest in foreign languages, I learned English myself without any additional classes. I have been teaching English for more than 10 years, and if my example can become a motivation for our youth, I think it will be my most important victory. The president awarded a group of women with honorary titles, orders, and medals for their initiatives and contributions to building a new Uzbekistan.
The President of Uzbekistan signed a decree pardoning 83 convicted women currently serving their prison terms. Of those pardoned, 12 women were exempted from serving their sentences in full. 29 are released on parole. Additionally, 25 women had their terms of their sentencing reduced. Of those pardoned, 7 are foreign citizens. The ministries and departments overseeing the pardons were instructed to assist their released women in returning to families and loved ones, ensure that they reintegrate into society by engaging in meaningful work, maintaining a healthy lifestyle, and bringing a positive influence into their communities. Over 700 projects with a total cost of approximately $10 billion are planned to be implemented in Tashkent by 2022, including 122 projects under the state and over 600 projects under the regional investment programs. This was announced by the President of Uzbekistan on March 7th. The industry sphere will see the implementation of 242 projects worth $1.9 billion and 337 projects worth $4.9 billion will be implemented in the service sector. Housing developments will draw $3.2 billion. Valued at $350 million, the construction of small industrial zone, Sergeli Industrial Park, is of utmost importance. Other promising projects for the individual districts of Tashkent were presented at the meeting. Among the most important projects presented are projects with total cost of $350 million and $418 million in the Technopark in Yashnabad district. The current year alone will see implementation of 400 projects with the amounts of investments reaching $4.8 billion. More than 32,000 new jobs will be created. The Parliament and the Senate of Uzbekistan will consider the government's proposal to join the Eurasian Economic Union as an observer state. The EEU was established in 2015 by Russia and allies. Belarus, Kazakhstan and the Republic of Moldova is an observer state. Becoming an observer state will allow Uzbekistan to assess and consider before deciding to become a fully fledged member. The EEU works to establish easy export and import lines for consumer and capital goods between the member nations.
The Cabinet of Ministers agreed that an analytical and comprehensive assessment of Uzbekistan's partnership with the EEU would be undertaken, and the conclusions and proposals based on the assessment results were submitted on March 6. 16 major sectors of Uzbekistan's economy were studied by a task force comprised of the representatives of various government agencies, ministries, and departments on the impact of the economic integration. Independent consulting firms, research institutions, and experts, both foreign and local, presented their conclusions. The parties discussed economic and industrial policy, regulation of customs fees, and foreign trade policy, among various other issues. Based on the results of the research, the impact of the integration into the EEU on the national economy was identified, and various measures are to be implemented by the respective ministries and departments. When President Mirziyoyev first stated the possibility of Uzbekistan joining the EEU, he stressed that this would in no way hinder the country's independence. The head of state also noted that joining the EEU should meet with the interests of the people, and that the parliament should seriously consider the matter at hand.
The Public Fund for the Support and Development of National Mass Media has proposed that defamation and insult in the media can be decriminalized. With the laws currently in place, slander or insult through the media will result in criminal prosecution. The fund's first aim is to remove the aggravating circumstance and allow the media to act as a watchdog and support the social justice. Even if a member of the media is not sentenced to prison, they face having to pay a steep fine. According to the fund, general circumstances will result in a fine up to $4,600 and aggravating circumstance can go up to $14,000. Comments on an official civil servant in connection with the performance of duty is currently considered as an aggravating circumstance and subject to criminal prosecution. In an effort to create a more transparent and objective system for the evaluation of students, the higher education institutions in Uzbekistan will gradually switch to e-university system. Additionally, the elective subjects not directly related to the major are being reduced by half. All of these changes and others expected in local education structures were discussed at a press conference in Tashkent.
The 2030 concept for the development of higher education system presented a number of initiatives aimed at improving the quality of education in Uzbekistan. It's envisioned that access to higher education for the local population will be increased by 50%. The transition of Tashkent University of Information Technologies to credit module system received a positive response from students. The system is also being trialed in 2 departments of the Tashkent State Agricultural University. When will we see all universities making the switch over to credit module system?
2020-21 o'quv yilidan biz 25 ta oliy ta'lim muassasasida
In 2020 and 2021, 25 universities in our country will be transferred to the credit model system. Of course, it's impossible to cover everyone. There is a technical side. For example, if there are 15,000 students studying in one university, we must first cover the first 3,000 students and adapt them to new studies. After you get the positive feedback, you can implement this system completely. We are, in this course of the year, will conduct the analysis to examine the positive and negative sides of the module. And after that, we can say when exactly all universities in Uzbekistan will work under the credit module system.
Uzbekistan still has large quantities of pollutant emissions that have a great impact on the environment, damaging both plant and animal life. There are more than 7 million tons of household waste generated annually and only 19% is recycled. There is minimal involvement from the private sector and not all neighborhoods have the access to state sanitation services. The boom in construction developments has caused a significant rise in the waste production.
By 2021, the entire population of Uzbekistan will have access to sanitation services, and existing landfills will be aligned with international sanitation and environmental safety requirements. Tashkent, Samarkand, and Andijan regions will see the implementation of landfills reserved for construction waste and facilities to sort and process the waste under the guidance of the Ministry of Construction and the State Committee for Ecology and Environmental Protection. In a recent meeting, President Mirziyoyev stressed the need to encourage industrial enterprises to use environmental technologies and to establish the production and implementation of dust and gas traps.
In Europe, currently 28 countries offer VAT refund, and starting from July the 1st of this year, foreign citizens and stateless persons will be able to use a tax-free system in the Republic of Uzbekistan. The State Tax Committee was instructed to develop a logo for retail outlets to indicate their participation in the system, as well as to create a sample receipt as starting point to implement a VAT refund on export goods. There will also be a single electronic database established to ensure smooth operations of the system, as well as various refund stations situated throughout the country to make sure the process is trouble-free for the foreign nationals wishing to attain a refund. 7,375 confirmed cases of coronavirus and 366 deaths across 20 regions of Italy. This has caused Uzbek authorities to postpone more than 20 planned official visits of ministries and various agencies to Italy. The Foreign Ministry of Uzbekistan is in frequent contact with Italian authorities and will monitor the situation to establish new dates. There are roughly 866 Uzbek citizens registered with the diplomatic missions in Italy and are all being closely monitored for sign of infection. The Development Strategy Center of Uzbekistan hosted a delegation from Turkey. Having underlined the bilateral relations between the countries, the sides highlight the prospects for long-term relations.
The promotion of strategic cooperation with the Republic of Turkey fully corresponds to current foreign policy of Uzbekistan. The participants of the meeting said bilateral cooperation in the coming years set to shift a new format. At the same time, trade, economic and investment ties, as well as transport and communication cooperation between the two countries will be actively developed. Relations between countries are constantly improved. In 2016, the trade turnover was $1.2 billion. In the subsequent years, increased to $1.5 billion and $2 billion. By the end of 2019, the figure was more than $2.5 billion. The investment cooperation between the countries set to continue its expansion, as the representatives of the Turkish embassy in Tashkent and the Turkish Agency for International Cooperation highlighted the increased interest in the Uzbek market.
An oil price slump added to turmoil on global markets Monday. Crude prices fell as much as 30% before rallying a little. That after Saudi Arabia's stunning weekend decision to increase output. Last week, the OPEC oil producers group was set to do the exact opposite, only to see ally Russia refuse to go along. Now the Saudis are instead flooding the market with cheap oil, undercutting Russia and other rivals. Analysts say it may be a move to force Moscow back to the negotiating table. The news added to chaos for equities already hit by fears of a virus-induced global recession. Asian markets fell as much as 5%. In Europe, major oil stocks then crumbled, with BP and Shell both down around 17%. That battered London's oil-heavy FTSE index, which dropped as much as 8%. Stocks in Italy were the worst hit in Europe, though, down over 10%. It's the European country hardest hit by the coronavirus, with much of its northern region now on lockdown. The government pledge of massive stimulus doesn't seem to have reassured. Now market watchers like Geosecurities chief Francis Lunn bet global stocks have further to fall.
We will have a big market correction of at least 20% globally. So buckle your seatbelt and hang tight, because it will be a rough ride. It will be a roller coaster ride.
On currency markets, the dollar tumbled against euro and yen. The Japanese currency is up almost 10% over the past 2 weeks. It's among traditional safe havens that tend to rise in times of trouble. Gold is another, with the precious metal now at around 7-year highs.
While the world scrambles to stop the spread of the coronavirus, North Korea has upped the ante in the sidelines and fired off its second round of ballistic missiles in a week on Monday. The South Korean military says the missiles flew up to 125 miles before landing in the sea. Japan's main government spokesperson Yoshihide Suga said Monday's launches appeared to be ballistic missiles.
This act threatens the peace and security of Japan and the region, and the actions, including repeated launches of ballistic missiles in the past, are a serious issue for the international community as a whole.
South Korea's military says Monday's launch was the latest test in a new series of drills personally overseen by Pyongyang's leader Kim Jong-un. Both involved a multiple launch rocket system and ended a 3-month pause in missile testing. Pyongyang has been under UN sanctions since 2006 over its missile and nuclear program. Last week, the United Nations Security Council met behind closed doors and condemned the North Korean missile launches as provocative action in violation of the UN resolutions.
These were the latest news for today. Goodbye.